The Mind Trick, single-handedly one of the most famous Jedi abilities ever, and a staple of the Jedi Order. We first saw this harrowing display of mental influence in The New Hope, where Obi-Wan Kenobi, now in his elder years, utilised on Imperial stormtroopers, proclaiming that the weak-willed could not resist a proper mind trick. Later, we saw this when Qui-Gon Jinn attempted to use it to persuade Watto to give him the hyperdrive to the J-type Nubian. Although Watto's species, the Toydarians, are naturally immune to Jedi and Force-imbued mind tricks, allowing him to resist it. The mind trick is one of the most famous Force powers that we have ever seen. However, while Jedi mind tricks don't work on the strong-minded, the Sith have their own version of this technique, and in my opinion, it is perhaps the most devastating and dangerous Force ability that has ever existed across the history of the lore. Brought about in the era of Darth Krayt, this ability, known as Memory Walk, was single-handedly one of the most terrifying Force abilities that had ever existed, and in my opinion, maybe the only dark side ability that eclipsed that and horror of Force lightning. Torture, brutality, two words that describe this ability. Darth Wylock stated the following thing about Memory Walk. "You are strong, Lord Krayt, but I know who you are, who you were, and where your weaknesses lie." So, my friends, let us begin as we immerse ourselves in the ancient enriched lore within the catacombs beneath Vader's castle, and discover the true history behind this Memory Walk ability. Serving as the ultimate villains of the Star Wars franchise, Sith Lords are infamous for their horrific dark side powers, and among the most depraved of these is memory walking. The Force and its dark side can be used for nearly any conceivable purpose, with the near limitless applications often being referred to as powers. Powers like Force Lightning, Pyrokinesis, as well as Electrokinesis, all have capabilities in order to be put to devastating effect. With Force Storm, Palpatine's own variation of the ability originally made by Darth Revan, literally tearing apart the very fabric of space and time itself. Sith, and their ancient enemies the Jedi, often use the Force to manipulate or read the minds of others, but the Sith use their mind-affecting abilities through a particularly brutal form of torture in the now bygone Legends continuity. In the Legends mythology, the Force, often nicknamed the light side or good side, is in balance with the nature and the galaxy's sapient beings, while the dark side is a corruption of this natural energy. Dark side acolytes, like the Sith, use this perversion of the Force in their endless quest for power and dominance over the minds of others, and thus a famous dark side ability is conceived, that of forcibly reading another's mind. In Return of the Jedi, which is both part of the current canon and the Legends timeline, Darth Vader uses this ability on Luke to learn that he has a sister, and powers appear again in Legends, with Inquisitor Jarek reading Cool Ran's mind in Jedi Dark Forces 2, and canon, via Kylo Ren's interrogations in Star Wars The Force Awakens, where Kylo Ren pries open the mind of Poe Dameron and forcing him to reveal where the Resistance base is located. Similarly, he does this on Rey, however Rey, due to a latent Force sensitivity, manages to resist. In the farthest reaches of the Legends timeline, however, the future iteration of the Sith Order uses the far worse version of this power. Memory walking does something far worse than forcibly reading the minds of its victims. It forces them to vividly relive the most painful and agonizing memories in a psychotic loop, psychologically torturing them in absolute agony. Fans see Star Wars Legacy 46 and Star Wars Legacy War 1, both by John Ostrander and Jandra Simima. Here, the terrifying power is used to torture its victim, either in order to break them by themselves, or to grant the Sith wielder a major edge in battle against them. In Star Wars Legacy, Darth Malady, one of Darth Krayt's most trusted advisors, uses memory walking on a captured Cade Skywalker, the last of the Skywalker lineage, attempting to torture him and turn him to the dark side to become Krayt's personal apprentice, and to heal him from his Yuzong parasites. Cade came dangerously close to being corrupted, but like his ancestor Luke Skywalker, used his love for others to turn the tables on his torturer. Cade redirected Malady's memory walk to affect the Sith Lord, forcing her to confront her fears and allowing Cade to eventually escape captivity. Unlike Cade, Malady took a long time to recover from the emotionally torturous effects of memory walk, while Cade seemed to have shrugged it off. Memory walking is also used by Darth Wylock III in his duel with Darth Krayt. This duel of memory walking powers proves the ability does not quite work in the same way Jedi mind tricks do. The use of this memory walking proves that it is devastating, as it can deliberately affect even strong-willed individuals like Crate. In Crate's case, the Sith Lord's long and traumatic past as an honorary leader of various Tusken tribes, and a member of the prequel-era Jedi Order, making him especially vulnerable to the Memory Walk's torturous effects. Despite this, Crate managed to resist the Memory Walk at the right moment, allowing him to deliver a killing strike to an overconfident Wylock, feigning weakness in order to gain complete superiority over Wylock. Memory Walk, also known as torture by Chagrin, was a force ability that consisted of mentally reaching into a victim's mind, forcing them to relive their worst memories of their life, both painful ones and ones that were merely embarrassing, over and over again, to the point where it almost seemed to cause physical pain to them. Discovered by sorcerer Rakur Grepar, he found after a brief session of torture by Chagrin, the subjects demonstrated a slight increase in intelligence and efficiency after they recovered. For this reason, he used it regularly on the crew of his personal command ship, the Venus, in order for him to be able to use the dark side, in order to increase efficiency, in order for him to be able to invade one's mind, as Wylock did with Lord Crate. Lord Crate, of course, was far more powerful than Wylock, and managed to overcome this, feigning weakness, while Wylock attempted to strike Crate down, and in the end, Crate eventually prevailed. So my acolytes, what did you think of this video? Do you personally agree? The Sith are masters of turning the pain and suffering of others against them, and memory walking is perhaps the purest expression of the pure suffering and agony the Sith bring. The power is most notable for preying on those who have experienced the most trauma, making it an effective weapon against even Star Wars' most hardened warriors. Elements of Legends canon are continually being added to Star Wars' new and improved continuity introduced by Disney, and it's likely that sooner or later, one of the galaxy's greatest heroes will have to deal with this daunting Sith ability once again. Farewell, my friends. I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away. Remember one thing, the Force will be with you, no matter how dark and treacherous the path ahead of you may seem.